Welcome, everyone. What a crazy week that was of the NFL. Some of my personal fantasy football player favorites went off. Tua looks legit. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Sun God, he's looking legit as well. I mean, we're gonna have a question about him later.
Too legit.
Too legit to quit. But there were some injuries, and there were some big injuries, and that's what we're here to talk about. So, welcome in Richmond, Patrick, and Eric, and my cat's making an appearance in the background. Richmond, how was your week this week in the fantasy world?
Much better than week one. Much better. I think I went 5-2 on the week. Nick Chubb really saved me a lot this week. He was a great second round pickup there, and as many leagues as I could go for him.
It's too bad he could not save the Browns, though. Eric, how are you doing? How was your fantasy week?
I'm living life, man. It's going well. My fantasy week was mediocre. I mean, 50-50. Half my leagues smashed it. Half my leagues didn't make it, man. And my redraft league was very Kirk Cousins in prime time. It could have used a little juice.
Interceptions galore.
Yes.
Patrick, how about you?
Not too shabby. 11-5 across the board, dynasty and redraft. So not too shabby. A couple blowouts too. Lost the nail biter by 2 points because Ryan Tannehill decided to just not show up. Killed me.
I feel like that's gonna might be happening a lot.
I needed 10 points. He only gave me 7, and I lost by 2.
That's
like 10 points.
That's pretty tough. That's tough.
I'm
I
sorry.
would have gone 6-0 in dynasty if he got me 10 points.
It's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
As they say.
Well, guys, let's get into it. Before we get started, I kind of want to give an update on some of the kind of recommendations we made last week. As far as tight ends for the 49ers, we said not to play anyone. Well, Dwelly did get a touchdown and ended up with 10.8 PPR points, but I think we'll kind of get into the reasons why later with the Trey Lance news.
Asterisk.
Yeah. We weren't expecting Jimmy G to get in there and actually start throwing the ball some, because I think they had ran it like 13-3, like 13 runs to 3 passes, and when the Trey Lance injury happened.
Yeah, and his 1 catch, 1 target, 1 touchdown.
Right, kind of a fluke. So Cam Akers actually got some work, so maybe that Achilles injuries in the past, he ended up with 8.2 PPR points. We were kind of off of him after last week and coming back from the Achilles as a whole. Jeff Wilson's season, I know we were all pretty much on board there. I just expect that to continue, especially with another running back injury that we'll get into later. As far as the poll that we ran, Eric, that you wanted us to run between Gabe Davis and Devontae Smith, it was pretty handily everyone's aboard the Gabe Davis train. I think there was only 1 vote for Devontae Smith, and I'm pretty sure that was you.
Yeah, I tried to vote twice with my alias account.
And then we did kind of say that you could play Josh Palmer if you were in kind of a tough spot, and he ended up with 13 PPR points. Got saved by kind of a fourth quarter touchdown, though. Shout out to the Parabola guy in the Cowboys game. Took a hard hit from Jamar Chase coming off to the sideline. He might be in concussion protocol. I wanted to get that in here. But moving on to like actual NFL injuries and everything. Let's talk about Jameis and how Sunday morning we were told he actually has fractures in his back, and it was actually kind of iffy if he plays. Patrick, what are your thoughts on that, and what are your thoughts on how Jameis actually played?
Yeah, I mean, those fractures coming out, that news was interesting for sure. It's definitely going to affect a lot of his performance. I mean, I can't imagine personally playing with fractures in my back, but I have to imagine the throwing is going to be limited. I feel like it just kind of his performance showed. And I also heard he picked up an ankle injury during the game too. I wasn't watching the game live, but reports afterwards said he also has an ankle injury. So going forward, I mean, it's going to be tough. I'm interested to see how his practice schedule looks this week and then how he goes forward. Knowing they have Andy Dalton behind him, I think that's a potential pickup if you have Winston, depending on your league setup and everything. Curious if he puts another performance like that out, they may just pull him out because it's clearly limiting how he played, or at least that's how I see it.
No, I'm with you. I mean, it wasn't like he was grabbing at his back at all, but it kind of seemed like he was not throwing the ball the way he should. Now, is that just classic Jameis, or was that
it's the eyes?
I mean, he did have
eyes aren't
40
an excuse
attempts. Yeah, he had 40 attempts. I mean, it's not like his fantasy numbers were bad, but again, it's just game flow. Like, we look at a fantasy point of view, they're still trying to win the game regardless. So if he's not accurate and his throws are a little off, especially downfield, because that's kind of what they wanted him to do, is throw a little more downfield. If he's not connecting on those, I mean, coaching staff might make a decision to just pull him.
Sure.
I mean, it might be aggressive to do that, but again, Andy Dalton's not a scrub. He's shown he can do it, so they may give him a shot.
No, I mean, that's a great point. Let's go from that QB to, obviously everyone knows Dak had surgery on his thumb now, but Eric, what did you think of the Cowboys offense with Cooper Rush instead of Dak out there?
Way better than I expected. I mean, Cooper Rush wasn't half bad. He won them a game against who should be a formidable team. I think that it was the perfect game flow for this type of a quarterback. Especially given their offensive scheme that they have to put out, considering their injuries with Gallup and at some point Schultz, who we'll talk about later. But I mean, Cooper Rush didn't look hesitant at all. I thought he looked really poised, and he didn't lose them the game, which I think a lot of backup quarterbacks tend to do. But I mean, Matt, you're the Cowboy guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a whole lot going in. I thought they looked decent. I mean, obviously he wasn't slinging the ball 40 yards down the field and we were making big plays, but he did what we needed to do to win. So hopefully he can just keep that up and keep it going. You brought up the Schultz injury. He has a little PCL sprain going on. Richmond, can you explain kind of what the PCL is and what our outlook of Schultz going forward is?
Yeah, so the PCL is basically, if everybody knows the ACL, it's kind of the opposite of the ACL. So ACL prevents the tibia from going forward on the femur. The PCL prevents the posterior movement, so going backwards on the femur. So as far as a guy like Schultz, I mean, that's something that can be taken out by kind of guys rolling up on his lower leg, kind of those tackles that hit below the knee as he's going forward, pushing that tibia backwards. So that's something that's pretty important for him as a tight end who's supposed to be in there to block on the line, who's supposed to be kind of absorbing those hits and keeping it moving down the field. So that's something that could potentially take a guy like him out for at least a week or two, I would say, depending on how bad it is. So not going on the IR and missing, what was it, 4 weeks, right? Like I think that'd be a reasonable target that he could maybe be like a week or two kind of guy who's going to be out.
Yeah, I mean, that's added concern for me, though. I mean, you can stay within the realm of the Cowboys and look at Ezekiel Elliott last year, who had that famous PCL injury week 4, and his efficiency was never the same that year. So now you look at a relatively less athletic, athlete, Dalton Schultz at tight end, who's faced with a similar injury, and it's going to be, a greater uphill battle for him to earn targets and to beat his man, with this injury that we've seen hamper players before and their efficiency on offense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he could come back, but I don't think he he may not necessarily be the same kind of guy. I mean, for a guy who expected to block, whether you think he's a good blocker or not is up for debate. He's definitely a pass catcher, so it's something that's definitely to be concerned for somebody in his position.
Now, what do we think about? And honestly, I'm not even 100%. I'm the Cowboys guy, and I'm not even 100% that this is going to be the tight end playing. But rookie Jake Ferguson is next up on the depth chart. Do we expect anything from him? Anybody playing Ferguson in any leagues or anything like that?
Maybe in like a 30-team league. Like,
Super tight.
Even then,
yeah.
Even then, that's kind of iffy.
Yeah, Will Fuller might make the list instead.
I mean, he is the next guy up, though. He did play, I think, like almost 50% of the offensive snaps. So, he's getting the time. It's just whether or not he's getting routes and targets. Because isn't Gallup coming back this week, potentially?
Yep, Gallup, it's looking probable that he'll return, but it's looking like he'll be on a pitch count because he's coming off that ACL. So they're going to get him in, get him feeling good, but he probably won't see a heavy workload this game. So maybe there is some room for the rookie there.
There's room, but Rush only targeted Schultz 4 times as well. It looks like he's got CeeDee Lamb and Noah Brown as his 1 and 2. And
it's getting slim.
The way that game plan went. So I wouldn't start any tight end. I would probably bench Schultz personally if I had him and run with someone else.
No, I'm with y'all. So let's get into a couple of the injuries that actually happened this week to QBs. Justin Herbert fractured some rib cartilage. It was very noticeable in the game that he was uncomfortable. He still made some big throws, but you could just tell it was bothering him. Eric, he's listed day-to-day. What is the outlook for Justin Herbert going forward?
Yeah, I mean, this is really a pain tolerance thing, which is every fantasy football manager's worst nightmare because he could play, he could not play. He could play and then be pretty good in the first quarter, and then he can go out at halftime. Like, you just don't know. I think ultimately it's going to come down to what Justin Herbert thinks he can do, the level of performance he thinks he can put out. And, if that's better than the backup quarterback, then they'll put him out there. But I think it's a really shaky play. I think because of his upside, even if they do send him out there, you have to start him in your lineup. But it's just one of those things that it's so tough to predict because there's so much happening, behind the curtain. And, at the end of the day, they might just give him an injection to that area to try and calm down the pain just for the time of the game. And that's something that we really won't know until probably later in the week.
The Chargers, they do not have a great track record of giving injections for rib injuries. So
very timely, Tyrod Taylor.
Backup? Yeah, who's the backup there? Because I might pick him up just this week.
Yes, pick up the Chargers backup now.
Start the Chargers backup in DFS because 20 minutes before game time, Herbert's gonna be missing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, they said he was throwing today. So he was throwing and doing rotational work. So med ball throws or something of that kind, maybe trying to see how he feels.
I personally think he'll play and just take the pain, but he is kind of known for running, and I doubt he would run as much.
Yeah. They are playing the Jaguars this week.
Well,
yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be tossing a med ball, and it's another thing to have a defensive lineman fall on top of you.
Right. I could see him doing a little more screen. Again, just kind of like last week we talked about, I think maybe a little more screenplay, get the ball out of his hands quicker, protect him. So maybe not so many deep shots. Granted, he did throw that bullet after he got hit last week. Granted, that was in-game, adrenaline
He was inspired.
He was gung-ho. He was not coming out of that game for long. But I could see him scripting it a little different. Again, I'd uptick Eckler.
I think
a little bit.
I think best recommendation there is just do we know what time that game is on? Is it one of the early games? Does anyone know that off the top of their head?
It's in San Diego, I know. It's the Jaguars, so it's probably a 1:00 game.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so you'll get the news early, so that's good. That's one of those we just might not know till
1:00 Pacific, for the record.
Oh, so it's a 3 o'clock
It's a
game?
4:05 game Eastern time.
Oh, so that sucks. So make plans as if he will not play, but just keep an eye out on the injury reports going through the week and the practices. But don't be surprised if he sits, because like they were saying, the adrenaline was going in that game. It's a lot easier to keep going after something like that than it is to actually ramp up for the game and to get that pain managed. But now the real bummer, Trey Lance's ankle facing the wrong way. Richmond, what exactly happened to Trey Lance's ankle? Will we see him this season? No, we won't.
Yeah, I'm
And
going to
what is
say
his
we don't
outlook
see
going
him.
forward for Dynasty?
This is I haven't seen all the reports on his ankle. I know from what I was reading about it towards the end that this may be a more than 1 year kind of injury. This is for a mobile quarterback. This, I don't want to say, this might change the trajectory of his career. Let's say, to see how he can come back from this. From at least some of the reports that I saw, I didn't get to see too many, but this is going to be a tough one for him to come back from, I think.
So, Patrick, is it fair to say, because he kind of said this could change his trajectory for his career, is it fair to say this injury could potentially ruin Trey Lance's career? Like, that is within the realm of possibilities.
I'd say within the realm. And it just kind of brings me back to home, RG3. I think it comes back to how they end up managing this, big picture wise. I mean, second game of the year, he's going to have a lot of time to recover from it. Dak had a similar injury. He showed he can come back, but he's not quite the same running quarterback that he was. So that being said, trajectory wise, yeah. I mean, looking at dynasty pitcher, I mean, depending on how you feel about that, you can either buy low or try to get what you can for him right now. But I mean, personally, I think if they handle it correctly, he can come back. But there is something about the 49ers. I feel like they have a lot of injuries that keep creeping up with a bunch of their players year in, year out. They tend to have one of the higher teams with players going on IR almost every year. So, and it's a weird kind of take, but their medical staff, for some reason, just, I don't know, they always get players hurt. I don't know if it's just poor management, something in the water out there, but I don't know. I'm a little shaky on them right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would play devil's advocate and say it's not career ending. I think that it's very similar to Dak Prescott's injury. I think he has plenty of time to recover. And there was one NFL professional, not a part of the 49ers, who surmised that he could be back by week 14. I don't know if that guy was hired by Jerry Jones, but but it just goes to say that, you know, there are other opinions, and folks do think that this is the kind of injury where you can come back from without significant mobility limitations, which would be what would stop him from being such a prolific runner. I do think that him as a dynasty quarterback, I think his career is at least off kilter, where, you know, people waited the entire rookie year for him to sit behind the great Jimmy Garoppolo. And there was a lot of anticipation for him to play this year and for him to prove his dynasty value. Some were valuing him, you know, top 10, even top 5. They thought his ceiling was that great. You know, with this injury and keep trade cut, he's sitting at, I think, quarterback 14. And, you know, his value is right around Devonta Smith. So I think that it's possible that just as a young player, young quarterback, you know, his career runs the risk of, you know, being off kilter because of the injury. But I don't necessarily think orthopedically he runs that great of a risk of never being a great runner again.
That's fair. Let's do that.
Yeah,
But
I would just say for him to just remember he has yet to even play a full NFL season's worth of games between college and NFL. So
yeah, that's impactful. I think I even saw he like has started 12 games since high school, which is like absurd.
So missing this year developmentally is going to be, I think, pretty challenging.
And
that I agree with.
And Jimmy G could now ball out this. I mean, what happens if Jimmy G now goes and leads them theoretically to the Super Bowl or to the
even the playoffs?
The playoff. I mean, this
division
is
winners. Yeah,
right. Division winners. I mean, there's a realm of possibility where they all look back at this season and go, "Well, we should have been playing Jimmy G anyway. We really messed up with Trey
but what
Lance."
do you do with this asset that you just invested a ton of capital into? I mean, you're not going to just bench him for his career.
I mean, you play to win the games.
Yeah, you want to talk to the Giants and Kenny Galladay sometimes?
Sometimes
no, I do not want to talk to
All right, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Let's talk about the running backs there. Ty Davis Price, he now has a high ankle sprain. He was kind of more of a fringe player, pick up and see what happens, but now we know he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. Elijah Mitchell's still dealing with that MCL, so we kind of know it's Jeff Wilson's season now. What's the I'm blanking on the other undrafted
Jordan Mason.
Jordan Mason might get a little bit of run because Jeff Wilson isn't exactly the beacon of health for them either. But this brings up an interesting question on Elijah Mitchell's dynasty value right now. Like, do we think he's worth buying, or is he a sell for what you can get right now? Eric, what do you think?
I would tentatively buy. I'm not sure what his cost is, but I think I would tentatively buy. He's sitting at RB 34. That's pretty low to me. I think that people are going to be down on him given the context, the history of the 49ers and how they deal with running back injuries. But I think that we've seen Elijah Mitchell have, a unique case where right off the bat, he's beaten out, other players with draft capital like Trey Sermon rather. And he's played very well for his first, start of his career. This isn't something that is, I think, devastating to his career as a runner. I think people are just going to be, guessing based off of history that, Shanahan is just going to move on to the next hot hand. But honestly, I'm looking at the rest of the running back roster, and I don't know how many other hot hands there can be when it's getting down to guys like Jordan Mason. So I think that they'll welcome him back into the fold when he's ready. And I think that he can be a prolific runner again. And at that price, I would happily buy.
Patrick Richmond,
what would you buy him for, though? What would you buy him for? That's my question. Second round?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know how many other.
I mean, yeah. If you can
I
get
think that's his
that
discount.
good, right?
Yeah, that's his discount value because he was. I think I've seen the trade. He was first round pick. Someone traded for, which to me was a little much to begin with. Yeah. But if depending on your league mates, how your league is, second, third round pick, that might be able to be enough to scoop him up. And then, hey, you got a guy who can come back healthy, maybe tail end of this year, if not, just be good for next year.
Yeah, I mean, I would try at all costs to trade a not draft capital, whatever that means to you. But I would definitely consider him a buy.
Yeah, I think if the price is right, that's good. I mean, like y'all are saying, if you can get him for, I probably wouldn't do it for an early second, but if you can get him for a late second or heck, a third, I'm smashing that all day to get Elijah Mitchell on my team. The big concern, I think, for him is not for this year when he returns. I think he steps right back into his role. It's just going forward. You never really know with the 49ers, and he hasn't exactly been the beacon of health in his career thus far either. So I think there's just a chance going forward that he gets replaced. How big of a chance is that? I don't know. I just think it's greater than most other starting running backs in the NFL.
Totally agree.
And one just little tidbit, Marlon Mack got promoted from practice squad. So don't forget about Marlon Mack. So he's going to be their
No.
third string guy there.
We can forget about Marlon Mack.
No, don't forget about him.
We
I'm
can
telling
forget
you.
about Marlon
We'll
Mack got
circle
cut
back
from the
to this.
Houston Texans. We can forget
I'm
about
just
Marlon
saying,
Mack.
we'll circle back.
Sexy
Marlon Mack.
Rexy,
Is
I mean.
that another
Do we
Achilles
need to
guy?
take a
I'll
bet on
remember the-
this? What is there a bet somewhere in here that about Marlon Mack?
I mean, I'll do $1 bet.
Okay, moving on. I just want to mention James Conner left the game with an ankle injury. It's reportedly not severe. I'm not going to spend too much time for us on this. He did not participate today. By all accounts, it seems like a low ankle sprain that he just couldn't get back in game. But a lot of times we see people come back the next week and are fine, or at least they tape it up and help him out and they'll play. In case he doesn't, Benjamin or Darrell Williams would be who you would play. Pretty much, I think Arizona looks kind of flat right now offensively. Anyway, they got injuries all across the board, so and a suspension to their probably best receiver. So just want to mention that real quick, but we can move on unless someone just really has a thought on James Conner's ankle injury. No.
Should be fine.
Nope.
All right. Wide receivers, we got 2 concussions right now that also did not participate this week. We got Devin Duvernay for Baltimore, and we got Renfro for Las Vegas. They're not participating today is a kind of big sign because, like I mentioned last week, you really want that limited participation on Wednesday because it's a progression. So, I mean, pretty much if they don't participate tomorrow, I'm not expecting them to play this week at all. And then, I mean, even with the limited participation, that's tough when they get the limited participation on Thursday or Friday versus getting it on Wednesday. Wednesday means they're pretty much symptom-free and they're good to go. If they're not participating today, that means, in my mind, they're still dealing with symptoms. So could be a more it could be a more Darren Waller week and Devontae Adams week. I mean, there's pretty much only 3 targets in Las Vegas. And Devin Duvernay's kind of been a big surprise this year. He's kind of been balling out and looking good. But if he can't go, maybe someone like James Prochet kind of takes a step into that offense and maybe looks a little good. But moving on to Jerry Judy, I want to get Richmond's thoughts on this. In game, it was reported as shoulder. Now it's being reported as ribs. He did not participate today. What is going on with Jerry Judy?
Yeah, I don't know. He took a pretty hard shot on the field when he came out. It was hard to tell in game what was going on. I think I texted and said, "Is this maybe concussion? Did he hit his head?" But then I guess it came out it was shoulder and ribs. So I mean, I think this might be a true day to day if it's ribs for him, depending on how bad he was actually beat up there. I don't think there's been any reports out there of like if there's any rib fractures they found. It's kind of goes back to the Justin Herbert deal where is this a pain tolerance issue for him as a wide receiver? Is this a extra padding kind of deal for him if that's something he can deal with in game? So I think this might be a true day-to-day. Not practicing today, I would say if he doesn't practice tomorrow or the next day, it could come down to game time decision and maybe not worth taking that gamble on him.
Is there anyone in that offense? Let's say Jerry Judy doesn't go. Obviously, we know Sutton becomes the prime target. Is there anyone else that we would kind of be looking for, Patrick, do you think?
I wouldn't say at the receiver position. I mean, Russell's been looking a little – that whole offense is just, to me, a little – I don't know. I'm hesitant as a general. But Williams out of the backfield, he's been doing a lot of catching. So could easily see them actually running Gordon and Williams out of the backfield and Williams splitting out to the slot a bit more just to give another target for Wilson. Because I think Hamler, they were talking, also has a knee injury too. So he may or may not be playing. think he was limited today as well. And then tight end, I mean, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. I don't know if any of you guys can pronounce
Albert
his name.
Opum Gangnam
Albert.
style.
Albert
Yeah,
O.
that guy.
Nice.
He's had 8 targets on the season. I mean, he was supposed to be like a potential breakout tight end from a lot of people, and I haven't seen it yet. I mean, maybe Judy being out opens that door, but I don't know until Wilson starts cooking. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, Wilson's look bad. I don't know what that's all about.
Their offense just looks bad.
Yeah, he's been cooking that hot dog water.
He ain't riding anywhere.
Let's move on.
Well, on that note, Eric, tell us about Gabe Davis and this ankle injury that popped up on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, we know very little about it. It sounds similar to James Conner's injury, where it's probably you know a low sprain. They called it non-contact, and that's pretty much all that we know. He couldn't go Monday night. He definitely wasn't needed. He's getting in some limited practice today, so you know you could follow the practice reports and you know see how well he's doing this week. But it's not an offense that's going to rush him back. It's really not an offense that thrives on Gabe Davis, as you know, as in comparison to if this was like Stephon Diggs, they might, you know, really try and get him back, maybe even too early. But I think Gabe Davis should be fine with that week off. I would guess that he would play, but just follow the practice reports and you'll know more from that.
Was that a hint of Gabe Davis slander I heard from you?
I thought that's where we were going there.
It's a singe.
Better be careful with that, especially when you have your Twitter handle up there. That's Twitter's darling is Gabe
I will
Davis.
happily be the lone vote against Gabe Davis in the Devonta Smith poll.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Richmond, is there anyone that steps into his role if he can't go, or is it just kind of the Stephon Diggs show?
I think it's the Stephon Diggs show. That offense is rolling pretty good right now. I think they're looking at the end of the season, so I think they'll end up holding Gabe Davis out.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm with y'all. It's week 2, and Buffalo looks unbeatable at this point. They obviously didn't need Gabe Davis, and they might just hold him till he is nice and 100%.
Yeah, it was a tough game to really be able to evaluate who they would have gone to. I don't think anybody really had a majority of receptions or targets outside of Stephon Diggs. And with that 41-7 score, I don't think they really needed to target anybody else.
Sure.
No, they do not. But let's talk about this wide receiver's not injured. But let's talk about how great Amon-Ra St. Brown is, the sun god himself. Now, we all know these first 2 games, he's been amazing. He ended the season last year on an 8-game stretch that was fantastic. But that's not the question. The question isn't how great Amon-Ra is. The question is he worth, according to Fantasy Pros, on rest of season rankings, he is wide receiver 6. Basically around Devontae Adams, Debo, A.J. Brown, in that area. Should he be wide receiver 6 on the rest of the season, Patrick?
Ooh, wide receiver 6. I mean, that's pretty high up there. That's borderline elite. I mean, that's elite company. At this stage, 2 games in, I mean, he kind of showed it last year, but this year he's come out and, if anything, he's just lived up to the little bit of hype that he was getting in the offseason. I mean, he's getting his targets, 12 targets both games, 8, 9 catches, getting the touchdown looks too. I think he might be able to live up to that. I mean, they got not necessarily a hard schedule, but it's not the easiest either. You got Minnesota, Seattle, New England coming up before the bye. Like, none of those defenses are necessarily screaming at me like they're going to shut him down. And just watching the Lions play between Philly and Washington doesn't have the greatest offense, but they pushed them. Now, again, Lions were leading in that game, but they had to keep playing. So I think they're going to have to they're going to have to score points to win these games and stay in some of them. So I think he's going to live up to it. So if you can get him or if you have him, keep him. Don't trade him for anybody.
Not trading him for nothing.
No, I would not.
Offer me Jamar Chase straight up. Not doing it.
I'll come clean on one thing. I made a trade during a draft for him for Pierce for the Texans running back. I needed a running back. It was a bad trade. I admit that.
That's always
Was this redraft?
It was a redraft.
Okay, thank God.
But I already had Justin Jefferson and McLaurin, and then
you were an
he was
embarrassment
my
of
third.
riches.
I was. I mean, it was a one-person keeper. I had Jefferson kept in the 14th round, so I was like, yeah. I drafted him in like the 10th round, and I needed another running back, and I took a chance on Pierce. So far, has not paid off whatsoever.
Pat, I have a question for you. You
Sure.
said you wouldn't trade him for anyone. On Keep Trade Cut, he's ranked higher than Saquon Barkley.
Oh, I would trade Saquon straight up for Amon-Ra, no problem. Get Amon-Ra on my team.
He's also ranked higher than Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
Michael
McCaffrey.
Pittman?
Or, I mean, Amon-Ra. Michael Pittman?
Yeah.
I would probably take him on.
Currently, I'm on. But that big picture dynasty, I'd think about that one.
CD Lamb.
Oof. That's so tough right there.
CD Lamb, Keep Trade Cut, he's dropped to wide receiver 13, by the way.
Wow.
I think that's an overreaction.
I would go CD personally.
I would probably still lean towards CD, but hey, I mean, if you can trade Amon-Ra for CD plus, I mean, I'd probably do that trade. That would probably take where it would take to get Amon-Ra from me.
All right, last one. He's ranked higher than a 2023 early first.
Oh, an early?
So it would take an early first plus to get Amon-Ra.
I mean, that's so tough. I mean, I know the 2023 class is supposed to be this great class, but you're getting that production now, and there's really nothing showing that production is going to fall off the cliff. I mean, obviously injuries happen. I mean, that's what our podcast is about, or this show is about. I mean, so it's possible Amon-Ra gets hurt next week and his career goes down the
void.
Right. But like, you're not expecting that to happen. That's within the realm of possibilities, but that's not why you're making the trade. I think it would depend on my team makeup on if I would trade that 2023 first for him. If I'm contending, I probably do. If I'm not contending, I might hold on to that because I'm trying to build.
So here's a question. Does that mean you believe in his quarterback?
Honestly, Goff looks decent. I think they might be trying to go build around Goff.
I was gonna say, it's not like he was trash in LA. I mean, Stafford's an upgrade, but
if you asked me this last year, I thought, okay, they're trying to tank and get a cute, but I mean, what are they 1-1 right now? And Goff, I mean, even if he just gets them 7 or 8 wins, you're not getting one of the top QBs at that point, and you're just trying to build around him. And I mean, the Rams proved you can have a Super Bowl team with him leading you. You have to have great pieces elsewhere, but it's possible.
Yeah. I guess my only worry with Amon-Ra is that who's going to step up and be that second receiver. I mean, they have Hawkinson, they have Swift catching on the backfield, but
it's going to be Jameson Williams once he's healthy.
Yeah, once he's back.
He's going to be
the
field stretcher.
Yeah.
The Lions are kind of good.
Sneaky good.
They have guys.
Sneaky good.
They just need their defense to be a little better, and that team is solid.
Or if you're an Amon-Ra fan, you don't need their defense to be better because we want shootouts.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I was saying. Eagles and Redskins put up points on them. They had to keep scoring. I don't see that changing against anybody they're playing this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, I could sit here and gush about Amon-Ra all night. So we got to move on because otherwise I will. I got one IDP injury to mention. Jadeveon Clowney, he's already out. He was Thursday night game. He injured his ankle. They ruled him out early in the week though. Is there concern, Eric, going forward that he's going to miss multiple games, or is this just it's a short week, they don't want to risk it type thing?
It's so tough to say. I mean, we know very little about this injury, but he was spotted in a walking boot for what that's worth. I mean, they're specifying it as ankle. They're not always right about the body part. For instance, with Judy's injury, they initially called it shoulder and then it became chest and ribs. So it could be his foot. It could be a Liz Frank sprain. We don't know. Likely they're right. Likely it's an ankle sprain. But I think the boot tells you that it's more than just, a Gabe Davis thing where you're pretty sure that he'll be back. Maybe they hold him out because they're nice to him. So I think that it's likely he's out a few weeks. And he's 29. He's going to take longer to recover than some of these younger guys who are coming into the league at 20, 21. I'm not optimistic for Jadeveon, but I mean, like I said, there's just so little known about it. It's possible.
Yeah, I agree. Short week, Steelers Browns matchup. We always know how those games go. Could just be a protective. Let's hold him out, see if he can bounce back again after the short week.
Yeah, I think early next week is going to be really indicative of what's really going on whether this is a actual issue going forward or if this was just being overprotective kind of for Thursday night game. Especially early in the season, you don't want to risk one of your star defensive players. Some quick updates on some injuries from the past. Michael Pittman is practicing this week. He kind of popped up later in the week with a quad issue and then was kind of a surprise to not play. They definitely need him because they look bad. Keenan Allen was getting limited practicing with his hamstring. Alvin Kamara was practicing a little. George Kittle was reportedly close to playing on Sunday, so I kind of expect him to play this week. Look out for if he's getting in full practices or not. The whole Bucks receiver situation is just a mess for this next week. Julio is out with a knee injury. Godwin's out with a hamstring injury. Evans is suspended, so that's a whole mess. Just kind of keep an eye out for it. But that brings up my kind of flag plant of the week. I think Russell Gage, who was handpicked by Tom Brady, gets quite a bit of run this week, assuming he's not injured at all, because I think I saw that he was kind of limited today as well. So there's a chance. I don't know who they would be playing at receiver at that point, but I think Russell Gage has I don't want to say a monster week, but a semi-big week this week. Richmond, do you have small, big week? Richmond, do you have a flag plant of the week with kind of who's injured and whatnot?
So Russell Gage is a guy who I have on a couple of my dynasty teams. So I don't know if I'm necessarily planting my flag on him, but I think this is my poop or get off the pot moment for Russell Gage. This is your opportunity to show up. So if you're going to show up, this is the week to do it. He's been at the end of my dynasty bench for a while, so I'm trying to figure out if this is going to be a real role for him. So I don't know if I'm making him my flag plant, but I'm definitely saying this is his week to make a stand.
Fair enough. Eric, do you have anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be another heavily targeted Tony Pollard week. Last week, we saw a change in, captain from Dak Prescott to Cooper Rush, and immediately we saw Tony Pollard get more involved. He was second on the team for targets with 7, and he put up a good week. I mean, he was involved in the rushing game. He was also very involved in the passing game. We know those targets to be more valuable than rushes And I mean, he's an efficient runner, or athlete in general. Whenever he touches the ball, he's able to move it well. So, I think this is going to be another Tony Pollard week, especially given the Dalton Schultz injury. I think I would definitely, fire him up in my flex if I could.
That's a good one.
I like it.
Patrick, do you got anyone?
If I can have two, one for Tampa, Scotty Miller. Wasn't picked by Tom Brady, handpicked, but he's played with Tom Brady, and he always seems to just be there. He had 8 targets, only 3 catches, but he does some shorter routes. Tom Brady got to get the ball out quick. He doesn't want to take those hits. I don't know. I have a feeling he might have a bigger role. And then going back to Cowboys, Noah Brown. He's performed 2 weeks in a row, so not so much of a dark horse by any means, but I think Noah Brown's not going anywhere anytime soon. Unless Gallup just clearly comes back and blows him out of the water. I think Noah Brown's kind of cemented a place in that lineup until he blows it, honestly.
Cooper Rush did seem to love Noah Brown and was targeting him fairly heavily. Also, Bucks did sign Cole Beasley to their practice squad, so maybe that's something going forward.
I think he was elevated already off the practice squad. I think that was like a
obviously you're not playing him this week.
That's a depth move, just another body,
Exactly.
Someone else gets hurt in the game.
But Tom Brady loves those white receivers, so
yeah.
I mean, there's a chance. Guys, we're almost done here, but let's end it with trivia. It's going to be the same as last week, where you just kind of buzz in or say, "I know the answer," or whatever. So we were talking about Elijah Mitchell and just all the kind of running backs through 49ers. My question here is, who was the last day 1 or 2 drafted running back to lead the 49ers in rushing?
Do they do that? Do they draft running backs?
They did. This one was drafted by them. Would it help if I? It was in 2014. He was a second round pick by them.
Ooh.
That rules out Frank Gore. Since I'm pretty sure he was drafted before I was born. So, anybody? Any guesses?
Would have been before Mostert, right?
And Mostert was
that guy's like 40.
Way back in the draft.
And
has knees of a 70-year-old, so.
Yeah.
No one?
I have a guy in my head. I just can't pull it out. It's not there. It's not there.
You have a guy inside of you.
Yeah.
What's the answer?
Is it Mike
Carlos
Davis?
Hyde?
Oh, yeah, that
Carlos
makes a lot of
Hyde
sense. Yeah, okay.
With 940 rushing yards in 2017 was the last day 1 or day 2 running back.
Yeah, he was a beast at Ohio State.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Okay, my next one. Dak being hurt dropped the number of starting QBs in the NFL currently from the 2016 draft class from 4 to 3. 2 of them are Goff and Wentz. Can y'all name the other starting QB currently from the 2016 draft class?
Ooh.
Bueller.
Ooh. Hold on.
I don't remember. I don't think there was another first round guy that year.
He was not a first rounder.
Yeah.
Oh.
When was Russell Wilson?
No.
Way before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's old.
Like 2012 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
20. What year? What were we talking about?
16.
2016.
2016. There's only so many teams.
So
And
that
it's
would have
true.
been
And I've it's not 3 of them.
It's not the Bucks. It's not Tom Brady. Got that.
Y'all give up?
when did the Browns quarterback come out?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
No, not Garoppolo.
Richmond, you're so close.
Is it Brissett?
It's Brissett. Jacoby
Okay.
Brissett. I think
I'm
he was
trying to
there third round that year.
Yeah, he had transferred from Florida to NC State, right?
Sure.
Because he was. I was trying to think. He's a Florida quarterback around 2014.
Who's asking who the trivia here?
You got me there. I don't know. Well, that puts Richmond on the lead for the year now with 2 points. Eric and Patrick, y'all are both tied at 1. So good job, gentlemen. Apparently, I need to make the trivia a tad easier going forward. I'm trying to find that zone for it. We'll get there.
They call
We'll
it the
get
sweet
there.
spot.
Some might call it the sweet spot. Anyway, that's the end of the show. Thank you if you joined us, guys. Y'all were awesome today. Thank you over at Gridiron Ratings for helping us put this on, especially Jeff and Ronnie over there. Really, we could not do this without them. They're the ones that set up pretty much the entire stream for us. I just click the button and we roll. Patrick, still no Twitter?
Nope. I'm working on it. Been busy.
Well,
Been busy.
Do you have any
Forgive
closing
me.
remarks
Forgive me.
then? Any closing remarks?
Marlon Mack.
This is what
That's
he
fair.
wants to be
Marlon
known
Mack's
for.
a thing.
Okay.
And
That's
Scotty
bold.
Miller. Scotty Miller.
That's bold.
Scotty
That's a
Miller,
little better.
actually. Yeah. I didn't realize he had 8 targets
100%.
last week.
Richmond, any closing remarks and where can people find you?
No closing remarks. People can find me at RP Laterio DPT. It's right here. You go. So you can find me on there. See what I post. Not too much fantasy content quite yet on there. More so physical therapy, rehab stuff, and track and field. So if you guys are big
Cool
track
stuff.
and field fans, that's a good one to follow right here.
I'm not, but that's cool.
Respect.
Eric, where can people find you and any closing remarks?
All right. I'm the Fantasy Football Nighthawk. You can find me at FF_Nighthawk.
All right, and I'm Matt at Fantasy Ferret on Twitter. Join me on Sundays, and I'm pretty much exclusively tweeting about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Thank y'all, everyone, if you joined in to watch this. Guys, this was a fun show. Thank y'all. Adios.